Raised in a world where silence meant control, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy mastered the art of withholding long before the world was listening. She understood the value and the consequence of saying nothing, even as the attention around her swelled into something she could no longer escape. What does it mean to know exactly how a system works and still choose not to speak? The answer begins far from the cameras. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy was born in 1966 into a world where privacy was expected, not explained. In New England, restraint was not just a mannerism. It was a language. Families kept their voices low and their opinions quieter. Reputation moved quietly from one generation to the next, held together by what was left unsaid. Carolyn learned early how to read a room, how to keep her own story contained. She watched adults navigate discomfort with a gentle redirection or a silent glance. In that environment, self-control became second nature. When she left for New York in the late 1980s, she did not leave those habits behind. The city was louder, faster, always watching, but the rules she carried fit just as tightly. Discretion became a kind of shield. In a place built on exposure, she stayed fluent in withholding. Her presence suggested more than it revealed. Even as the world around her demanded more, she kept her boundaries intact. At Calvin Klein's New York headquarters, restraint was not just admired, it was enforced. Carolyn managed VYP clients, orchestrating fittings for names like Annette Bening and Diane Sawyer, but she left little trace of herself behind. Her job required a careful balance to make celebrities feel seen but never exposed. Colleagues remember her as precise, deliberate, never rushed. She elevated the company's minimalism into a kind of armor, neutral palettes, clean lines, nothing extraneous. Even off the clock, she avoided logos and sometimes asked staff to remove labels from her clothes. Invitations to events were given sparingly. Interviews declined without apology. The less she revealed, the more people wanted to know. In that world, absence became a tool. She learned how to control a narrative by withholding, how to let silence and suggestion do the work of explanation. This discipline was not an accident. It was a skill sharpened each day until it became second nature. She met John F. Kennedy Jr. in the early 1990s, not through chance, but through the quiet machinery of New York's fashion world. Their first conversation happened during a fitting at Calvin Klein, where she managed the details and he noticed the ease with which she moved through a room. Invitations followed, dinners, parties, a gala. She did not rush toward him. When he asked her out, she waited. Even after his proposal, she took 3 weeks before she answered. Friends later described it as caution, but it was more than that. She weighed the cost of stepping closer, aware that his life was always half lit by flashbulbs, always being interpreted by someone else. For her, engagement was not just a question of love. It was a calculation about how much of herself she was willing to give away. That pause, deliberate and unhurried, was the first sign she understood what the world would ask of her if she said yes. On a cold morning in February 1996, Carolyn and John argued in Central Park. The fight, loud enough to draw attention, was captured by a photographer hiding nearby. Days later, the images ran across 8 pages in the New York Daily News. There was no context, only the spectacle, her face, his frustration, the suggestion of trouble. The story became public property overnight. Strangers studied her expression, searching for clues. Reporters circled their apartment, waiting for a reaction that never came. She said nothing. She didn't explain. Instead, she moved deeper into privacy. 7 months later, on September the 21st, 1996, she married John on Cumberland Island, Georgia. The ceremony was arranged in secret. Guests received no invitations, just a phone call and strict instructions. Cell phones were left behind. Even the clerk, who issued the marriage license, was sworn to silence. Only 32 people attended. But when the news broke, the world responded with a frenzy. Headlines, flashbulbs, a myth already forming. Privacy had been the goal, but exposure became the outcome. After the wedding, requests arrived from every direction. Fashion magazines wanted exclusive interviews. Television networks offered prime-time specials. Invitations to high-profile events came with the promise of friendly coverage. She declined each one. No sit-downs with Vogue, no features in Vanity Fair, no morning show appearances, no tell-all profiles. Even charity events were chosen carefully. Never more than a handful each year, always with controlled access. She left Calvin Klein behind, stepping out of the public relations world entirely. Her name appeared on guest lists, but her face rarely surfaced in the crowd. When reporters called, there was no comment. When photographers waited outside, she stayed inside. The refusals weren't loud. They were steady, consistent, and absolute. Silence did not dissolve the attention around her. It held it steady. By refusing to explain, by never giving the story new material, she allowed the cycle to keep spinning, predictable, unbroken. The system stayed intact, not because she spoke, but because she chose not to. Silence shapes outcomes as much as action. In a world that rewards compliance, withholding isn't absence, it's influence. The systems we tolerate today still depend on the quiet consent of tomorrow.